Hey, what is up guys? Guitar Rock here, welcome back to another Brave 9 video. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. I wanted to wait till my guides are properly done, and then I have a rough idea, a rough sketch on who I think is the best heroes, mercenaries for Gate of Chaos. Okay, so at the time of me recording this video, there should be about 7 days left, okay, 6 to 7 days left. So you still have somewhat of a decent amount of time, which is like 1 week, for you to try to catch up to the Gate of Chaos if you haven't done. Now, trust me, when I first explored the Gate of Chaos, it's really hard. But the second time I do it, alright, after I reset everything and I try to do it for the second time, it gets super easy. The first time you try, okay, it's going to be much more of an exploration thing. The second time is actually going to be, you're going to have a much easier time tackling Gate of Chaos once you have experienced it the first time. So that's what I'm trying to say. And especially with guides, I think you can do it with 5 hours easily with guides. And that's the whole point of this guide, alright? So I'm going to try my best to hopefully give you the perspective of someone who have completed Gate of Chaos, okay, on which units I think are the most reliable to build. Alright, so now keep in mind, this is all based upon the first season of Gate of Chaos. I'm not entirely sure what will happen after this, okay? So once this Gate of Chaos ends in September, like after we get a reset, for example, are we getting the same enemies? Or are the enemies going to change every single season? Alright, that's something that I'm not sure of yet. And also, are we going to, like, even if it changes, right? So are we going to have the same rotation come back eventually? You know, that's something that I don't have the answer to yet, unfortunately. But I hope that with this guide, it's gonna make your life a lot easier. And especially if you're on a newer side, you're gonna know which units that you want to focus on to help make your Gate of Chaos tackling whatever a lot easier. Okay, so let's jump into it. Okay, so before we proceed, I just want to talk a little bit about the rewards, right? A lot of players have said that, okay, Gate of Chaos is not going to be worth your time because of the current rewards or the current Octo that we're currently having, which is Susaira. Okay, I am aware that Susaira is not really like a meta-changing or game-breaking unit, which is understandable, okay? So she is slightly above average in my opinion. I wouldn't say that she's bad, but here's the thing. You never know what's going to come later on, and you gotta see from the perspective or the point of view of the developers. Okay, if I'm a developer, look at this slot right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 5 more Octos that's gonna come after Susaira, right? So if I'm a developer, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put like an average unit on the first one. I'm gonna put the best Octo probably somewhere here on the third one, or maybe on the fourth one. So why am I doing it that way? So that you have time to prepare. So first one, I'll just put a mediocre or an average Octo, so that if you can't get it, you still have time to prepare for the next Gate of Chaos reset, which is the second or the third one. So I'm not going to be a jerk and just put the strongest Octo in the first slot. And that way the community is going to backlash on me as a developer, and everyone's going to hate on me. So that's something that I think any developers would do. I mean, to get the most income, like investment return, I would put it here. Alright, if I put it there, then it doesn't make sense because like everyone would know what Gate of Chaos is all about, and players would have too much time to prepare. So at that point, like even a 2 months old player would be able to tackle it easily. So I gotta put the strongest Octo somewhere here to be able to, I gotta give players enough time to prepare, but not too much time in a point that's putting me as a developer at a disadvantage of, you know, earning as much revenue as I can. So putting it here seems about right. So that's just my point of view, alright? Let me know what you guys think. So yeah, let's talk about Gate of Chaos and which units do I think you really need to invest into right now. So like I mentioned, this is all based on Season 1, the current season that we have in the current Gate of Chaos. Okay, so if we are talking about the best units, best case scenario, that someone that I basically benefit a ton of from is none other than Mora. Alright, I'm sure you guys know that by now. Every single stage, almost every single chapter 1 and chapter 2 stage, Mora is just the MVP. Alright, there's no beating it. Mora is just like insane. You can't deny the fact that Mora is something that makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so players that have Mora, and do not have Mora, you're gonna see the difference right there. She is something that I do think that most players should start focusing on. What makes Mora so good compared to a lot of other units? If you look at all of this stage, okay, so a lot of these units, they have the ability to deal stats weakening, okay? So Mora has stats weakening immunity. Not only that, she has the ability to have 100% defense as well. So that's something that gives her the benefit that most other units do not. Alright, 100% defense and stats weakening immunity. Those two combined, obviously it's going to give her the ability to survive a lot of things. Alright, a lot of these minions right here, okay, so these bulls, they deal stats weakening, okay, they deal decent amount of damage. If you don't have that, if you only have DOT immune or something else, you're going to get destroyed. Even Glacier plus 15 gets destroyed by these bulls easily. Alright, paired along with these frogs. Now these frogs deals decent amount of damage, but keep in mind that they will only deal high damage if you already have debuff on you. Okay, so which is why the strategy is always to get rid of all these other guys, and the only person that can cause debuff most of the time is this Minotaur guys, and their debuff is in the form of stats weakening. So that's where stats weakening immunity comes in, and of course the Biobi Hornets, which you ideally want to get rid of first. Okay, so definitely Mora is just very strong in most of the stages. For sure, you cannot deny the fact that, you know, she is probably almost as useful as Seto or any other units in the entire Gate of Chaos. Now, is there a replacement to Mora? Yes, there is. Okay, if you do not own a Mora, Adin is probably your best choice. Okay, something similar, have stats weakening. Okay, and Adin is going to be able to dish out much more damage. The only difference is the investment on the scroll part, because Adin is going to require 5-star reset scroll as opposed to Mora, which only requires 4-star. Alright, and of course, criteria wise, they're both similar. They have 100% defense easily and can also will be able to get the stats weakening immunity built into them. Of course, if we are talking about investment wise, Mora is going to be way cheaper, right? So if you do not have Mora, start working on her now. Hopefully before the next Gate of Chaos, you should have yours up to plus 15. Alright, get her to plus 15. There's just no argument that the plus 15 is going to be way better than a plus 14. Alright, second on the list is going to differ from user to user. And this comes down to my own personal preference. But I do think that Varonia is going to be the one that's probably the most useful. Alright, I would argue that she's much more useful than Raphithia in Gate of Chaos. There's always going to be that scenario where you want to solo Varonia because there's no need for you to use more than just one supporter. And using your legendary like Raphithia is going to be a waste in Gate of Chaos because the legendary reset scroll doesn't come that often. And in most cases, Varonia is going to provide that more than enough. There's no replacement for Varonia. It's really hard to replace Varonia because of how much buffs she can provide to a single unit, to a single target, warrior, defender, whoever they are buffing. She also gives 100% defense or almost close to that, 98%. And alongside with massive attack, massive crit rate, massive crit damage, and it's just hard to replace a Varonia. Now there's plenty of mistakes that I've made that I did not use Varonia. I just straight up decide to bring my Michaela or Stella. And you're going to be lacking in either one of those areas. It's quite hard to replace Varonia. Okay, so Isabel, Serendia, there are plenty of 4-star supporters. But most of the time, their buffs will not be enough. Especially once you reach chapter 3, you're going to feel a difference. And even against the bosses, alright, Varonia to Belasir is probably the best strat that you can actually tackle all of them. So my advice is, I know most players are extremely lenient when it comes to supporters because Raphithia is so good in PvP. And that makes a lot of players not build any other supporters outside of Raphithia. Alright, if you have Raphithia plus 12, she's gonna be able to help you in probably World Boss, in Campaign, in Evil Castle, in Arena. So I can see the appeal to not want to build any other supporters outside of Raphi. And I can understand that from the standing point of a newer player. Alright, if you are new, you want to focus on your other warriors, defenders, you want to skim out on supporters because Raphithia is more than enough. But when it comes to Gate of Chaos, please get your Varonia. In fact, I do think that Varonia is the best one to pick from the Jumpstart quest. Alright, in terms of the 5-star supporters, she's probably going to give you the most out of your return. Like having Varonia in Gate of Chaos is just the amount of security and which is why I decided to place her on the second place of the most useful mercenary in the current season 1 of Gate of Chaos. Okay, so next up, the third one. This is gonna be kind of complicated and kind of debatable as well. Alright, so it's gonna come down to 2 units, and I think these 2 units are easily tied right here. And these 2 are legendaries as well. So basically, I think these are the only legendaries that you're gonna need in Gate of Chaos. Number 1 is Seto. Okay, so there's no argument that Seto is just so useful. Alright, his guard skill enables him to survive every single hit possible, okay, that no other tank can survive. Like, once you go to chapter 3, you're gonna fight this Sobalina girl. This girl is insane. She one-shots through everything. Even my Grand Hilda at plus 15 with the strongest runes ever, she'll pierce through like butter. Alright, you need something with guard, which is where Seto comes in. Now, between Seto and Lucius, I do think that Seto is gonna be way more useful. Seto can tank and also can, you know, offensive-wise, he's there. He will be able to reflect damage to the enemy, he will be able to deal damage and heal back to full, which is something that Lucius cannot give, cannot provide. Alright, so having Lucius plus 15 is probably not going to serve you much in Gate of Chaos. Next up, Livia. And I do think that Livia deserves this spot to be equally as useful as Seto. Now, when we talk about Arena, everybody is like, oh, Alec is so good. But in Gate of Chaos, you know, I don't think Alec is even close to being used compared to Livia. Livia is just comparatively much more useful than a Lucius, much more useful than any other legendary because of her defensive capabilities. She has the ability to survive almost every hit with her 100% defense. Alright, she can heal back up easily, okay, with her regeneration as well. And moreover, she deals with units with high HP and also units with 100% defense. Alright, having Livia is just so easy. She is so broken in Gate of Chaos. She can literally solo a lot of stages that if you don't have Livia, alright, for example, like there's one boss stage, she can literally solo this entire stage. If you don't have her, you have to rely on bringing Seto and a few others, which you have to bring like 7 to 8 units, where you can just do it with Livia alone. It saves you so much scroll, it saves you so much hassle. Having Livia just gives you the boost and the advantage in your account. Alright, so if PvE is something that you care for, I always tell players, especially if they are new, alright, who do you reroll for? Go for Livia. Do not go for Lucius anymore. This is not 2019, this is 2020. Alright, and Livia shines extremely well in all the PvE stages. Lucius' usefulness does not even come close to Livia. Like, literally. If you have been playing campaign, you would know. Alright, how many times have you borrowed a friend's Livia? And how many times have you borrowed a friend's Lucius? Ask yourself, do you actually borrow a friend's Lucius? Almost always you'll be like, hey, I need a friend's Livia. Her usefulness definitely shines right here as well in Gate of Chaos. There's just no debate right here. So she's very useful. Now granted, she's not something that you can actually build or actually just buy with ancient coins like Seto. You have to pull her from the gacha system, right? So that's something that's a bit of a downside right there. But any new players watching this, if you are really on the new side and you're looking to reroll for Livia. You will not regret it, trust me. She's gonna make your life so much easier, alright? Veteran players with account that does not have Livia compared to new players that account that have Livia, that new player is gonna catch up significantly and it's going to boost your account significantly. Your account is going to like skyrocket to the roof. Alright, so next one, 4th place. Who do I think is probably equally as useful as all these other units that I mentioned? Narisa. Okay, now she's really different, quite similar to Mora. Alright, not as useful as Mora, she's gonna die eventually. But in chapter 1, in a lot of strategies, she's gonna be useful overall. Alright, so compared to a lot of other units out there, having the Narisa is gonna give you a big advantage. Alright, not only is she useful in chapter 1 and chapter 2, of course you can't really bring her in chapter 3, she's gonna die easily, but she's also useful in the boss stages. Alright, so her ability to basically boost the incoming damage boost right here. Okay, so this really helps her insanely. Okay, so you're gonna see her being used a lot in a lot of strategies. So I think getting the Narisa to +9 is something that most players have already done, so I don't think I need to mention it right here. But +10 is where she really shines above everyone else, because 100% incoming damage boost is going to increase to 125%. So that means that 25%, when we're talking about damage scaling, alright, in the damage of millions, is a lot, alright. Like, for example, 1 million, 25% more is like 250,000. That's a lot more, especially when the boss has like 65 million HP for the chapter 3. So that's something that you have to consider. Alright, so if you haven't already, get your Narisa up to plus 10. Just future proof yourself as well, because she's gonna have a companion in the future for sure. Once she's plus 15, I think she's gonna be even stronger than before. Okay, so at 5th place, I think there are 2 units that deserve to be in this spot that I think is really useful. Alright, number 1 is Benchina. So obviously Benchina is just a PvE queen. When it comes to tanking capabilities, she is more useful than Glacier in PvE in my opinion. Alright, she is always, like, her ability to taunt is just free. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to move first. All you need to do is basically secure a kill on the enemy's side, get a grave, and you're done. You have taunt on Benchina. Now, she lacks immunity, right? Which is probably one of her biggest downside, and that can be negated if you're willing to give her, you know, some of the purification or maybe some immunity from other supporters as well. So Ebony can give her stats weakening, right? And you have Ceres for that as well. So she's really useful, and I would say that if you need taunt, the first unit that I always come to when I actually need a taunt in PvE is Benchina. I never use my Grand, I never use Glacier, I never use anyone else, alright? In my opinion, I do think that she's a solid choice. And if you're still thinking, okay, should I build my Benchina? Like, I do think that she's still very strong till this day. I still see in World Arena lots of players run her actually in their team, which is a good sign, alright? She's not someone that's like dropping off in meta significantly. She's definitely being used from time to time. Definitely, her high HP paired with a lot of other things makes her a viable, and also her damage is very high as well. So when you talk about defenders, alright, when we compare her with, for example, Glacier or Kaylin or Gran, her output damage is significantly higher than those others. So sometimes, even if your other teammate dies, she can surprisingly carry you all by herself, alright? She can actually, granted that the enemy doesn't have any 100% defense units, she can basically just jump in and just kill everyone else. So definitely do not underestimate her. So one more unit that I do think that would be same ranking as her would be Larkis. So Larkis is definitely very strong in Gate of Chaos. I sort of have a small regret for not building Larkis, but not really, because there's no reason for me to build him most of the time, okay, outside of a lot of very niche situation. But definitely we can all agree that Larkis is going to be very useful in Gate of Chaos. He can basically solo a stage. So obviously if you're willing to buff him with Varonia is even better, or if you can buff him with just any form of buffs that gives him a lot of attack. So he can basically do well from all the chapter stages, chapter 1 till chapter 2. Alright, chapter 3, he can't really do much because those Obalina will come in and one-shot her, and those Obalina have Death Guard, so you can't protect against those. But yeah, Larkis is a pretty decent part. I just wish he has stats weakening immunity. If this guy has stats weakening immunity, he's definitely going to be the best unit to build for Gate of Chaos. But because he has DOT immune, alright, and none of the enemies in Gate of Chaos can actually deal DOT. I can't remember anyone that did. Yeah, so DOT immunity is probably the most useful, the most useless thing in Gate of Chaos based on the Season 1. So yeah, if you have Larkis, if you have him at high enough skill level, don't feel discouraged, because this guy can definitely carry you in a lot of the stages, alright, from chapter 1 to chapter 2 onwards. Just make sure to buff him with immunity. You can use, you know, like I mentioned, Ebony, Ceres, or even Daniel, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel gives stats weakening immunity, but Daniel doesn't give any other attack buffs. Oh, Daniel does give attack buffs, so that can help Larkis as well. So yeah, it's something to consider, alright, if you're thinking of... In fact, I wouldn't recommend building a Larkis at all in today's meta, but if you just happen to have him already at a decent enough high skill level, for example, you have him at like plus 8 or plus 9, you want to plus 12 him, sure, go for it. I mean, you're that close, right? Okay, so with that being said, these are my list of who I think is the most useful, useful units for the Gate of Chaos. Let me know what you guys think. I want to hear from you guys as well. If you guys think that I missed out any other units that you think are more useful than the ones that I've mentioned, sure, let me know in the comments below. I know some people will say that Barbara is quite useful, same goes for Frisha in some stages, but I think those units are quite niche and they are only useful in the boss stages mainly. If you're talking about in specific, like universal, alright, I feel like those units that I mentioned, the 5 units earlier, will have much more usage overall. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, turn on the notifications as well. I'll be putting up more Brave 9 contents. As soon as the next Gate of Chaos resets, we're gonna see the new mercenaries and stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to make more guides for you guys. As always, have a nice day. Goodbye.